Okay, so in honor of the upcoming tax deadline, we're going to investigate what's known as the marriage tax for income values that are probably reasonable for most people who'll be graduating from here in the near future. Okay, so we're not going to investigate every single possible income bracket, but we're going to go up to 80,000 per person and see what happens. You can obviously Google this topic and find out a lot more about it, but let's just go back to the original documents and actually see what happens for some typical people. So the first link, if we click on the first link, you get to see is what the 1040 EZ looks like. Now you should know the 1040 EZ is exactly the same as the 1040, except that it doesn't contain a whole bunch of contingencies. So anybody can use the 1040, but not everybody's allowed to use the EZ because they may have things that they need to put in their taxes that don't come under this form. Okay, but most people can file the 1040 EZ. Alright, so what happens is, here is where you put your gross income on line 1, and then let's ignore line 2 and line 3 and line 4. Assume that line 1 and 4 are the same. We are going to consider line 5 though, because this is really substantial and affects everybody. So if you're a single filer, you're going to get to deduct $10,150 from your income. If you're married, that bumps up to $20,300. That is the piece we're going to actually use. And then that's the only deduction we're going to take. That's going to be line 6. We're going to pretend that people have no income tax withheld, no earned income credit, none of these other things. Nothing. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go back to here. Okay, we need to find the actual amount of tax. This is found in both of these following documents. There's the instructions for the 1040 EZ, and you can see it's a lot more easy because the taxes come a lot sooner in the packet. But you could go to either one of these documents to calculate the tax from the tables. I'm going to go ahead and use this one first and show you that. So the instructions for the EZ, we're going to go to page 30 on that, and we're going to look for the tax table. Okay, there we are. There's the tax table. So what you're going to do in your homework is you're going to subtract out, this is the question 1 is for a single person, so you subtract out the amount that they can take personally. Where was that form? Alright, anyway, you take the personal deduction off the gross income. That's the only deduction we're taking, so that's your taxable income, and whatever that is, let's just make up a number. Let's say that's 5,000. That's the wrong number, but let's pretend it's 5,000. Now we're going to go over here to the tax, and we look for 5,000. We say, oh, where is 5,000? Okay, so you have to look at this line. Between 5,000 and 550, a single person pays $503 in tax. If you're married, in this case, the numbers are the same. So for the early numbers, I think they're very, very close or the same. Okay, and so then you will write that number down in your homework. So then you put the tax value here. Do the same thing for each of these following income levels and write down the tax. So that's very easy. Okay, then the next group of people, you do the same exact thing, but instead you're going to take away the personal exemption twice, because these are couples. Question 2 is couples. So you take twice the personal exemption, put the new taxable income in this column, and then again you go to this the tax tables, but now let's make up a number, 1523. Maybe your taxable income is 1523, but you're married now. So then you go to $15,023. Okay, there you go. Somewhere in there, in between that range, 1,500 and 1,550. So $15,023 is in that range. So if you were a single person, that would be $1,800 of tax, but since you're married now, it's $1,503. Okay, this is very very straightforward. So then you just write down all those taxes. This is a table lookup. This is a simple subtraction, then a table lookup. Okay, now the fun begins. Oh, right, one exception is the last two couples are making too much money. Their taxable income is going to fall off the chart. So you have to go here to page 88. So you notice the tax tables for the full 1040 instructions are over here. They end on page 87. And so what happens is on page 88 is where you get the formula. So people who roll off the edge of, let me see, hello, please go to this page. It's not going. Here we go. People who roll off the edge of the table, and you can see right up here, maybe you can't, my computer, so there's some tables. And then what happens is, alright, they say they give up. They're like, we're not going to waste paper printing tables for you people making that much money. We're just going to give you a formula to use. And so you put the amount of the income in here, and it seems counterintuitive because normally you do the personal exemption and then you do, anyway, it doesn't matter. You've already actually subtracted your personal exemptions here. So that's your taxable income. You multiply by 0.28, all right? And so you're like, wow, I'm going to pay a third of my income in tax. But that's not true, because then you subtract $6,824.25. So your effective tax is not 28%, but it just kind of feels that way. Okay, so then you get money back. So whatever you get goes in that line. We're not going to use these other lines in the table. The couples that we're considering will fall in this formula. Okay? Great. So go back to the homework. All right, so you've used that formula just to figure out these two values right here and here. And then question 4. Then you ask the question, wait a minute, this is really clever, right? So what is going on here is that you notice, you just flip up to page 87 and you notice the very last income level is $100,000. But that's taxable income. That's not pre-tax. That's taxable income. And so let's just see what happens if one person, makes $100,000 and decides to use the table. All right, so you notice that this format of the table is a little more confusing than the one for the EZ packet because they have more columns, right? So in the EZ packet you just have single and married. And here we have single, married filing separately, and head of household. So there's more categories. And head of household is a special category. It doesn't mean like you're just the mom or you're just the dad. It's a separate category. You have to go read about it. It's a legal category. But anyway, it's just confusing the way they named it. Okay, so this say this couple is married filing jointly. This is how much tax they make if they use the table. But the table says but less than. So really if they're making 99, if their taxable income is 99,999.99, then they're still using the table, right? So 1 penny more, and then they roll over to the formula. And so that's why we're going to go ahead and use 100,000 and just compare the two values. Because we're not going to worry about that 1 penny. We're just going to round up. All right, so now what if it's 100,000 in this line? Then we calculate this. Those two values are going to go on these two lines. So based on the table, you just copy it off the table. Then you use the formula, and voila. Is it a huge difference? Are you going to pay a lot more tax for earning 1 additional penny? Is it going to be like thousands of dollars more tax because you bump up into the big people's bracket, the people who are making gobs of money? Or is it going to be like, oh, no big deal? Or maybe the people who make more money are going to get a discount for using the tax the formula instead of the table. I don't know. What do you think is fair? Anyway, that would be a fun thing to calculate. Then calculate the tax amounts for the following couples who are not married, and then what happens if they get married. So what you're going to do is you're literally going to go to your grid up above and calculate if these guys are not married. So somebody, let's say, who's making 40,000 and somebody who's making 60,000, they are living together, but they're not married. So you just take their tax from here and here and you simply add them together. Okay, you just add those numbers. And so you do all the various combinations and you just add them up and put them in that column. Then you go up for what happens if they get married. You go up to the other grid and you just say, well, somebody who's making 40 and somebody who's making 60 get married, then they'll be over here. And then you copy the married tax out of that column and then you put it down. Okay, so you just do it's just addition and copying. Just be careful because just don't get confused. Right? So very carefully copy and add, copy and add. Then what you do is you take the difference and you copy it down. Alright, and what can I say? Oh yeah, if there is a marriage tax for these people, then what this number will be is it will be positive. You want to know how much extra money they're paying because they're married, because the assignment is to investigate marriage tax. If this number is negative, it means you actually have a negative marriage tax, which means you have a benefit by getting married. Got it? So if this is a positive marriage tax, that means you're getting penalized for getting married. If these numbers, if any of them are negative, that would mean you have a benefit by getting married. So it may be positive, it may be negative. That's the whole point of the exercise, to figure out what is going on. Then let's say you get a value that's like, okay, maybe this tax is $500 more and this tax is $600 more. Okay, if that were to happen, what we really want to know is what is that as a percentage of their gross income. So just for example, if this were number like, they say they pay $500 extra because they're married, you'd say 500 divided by 40,000, and then to turn the decimal into a percent, you multiply by 100, and you can say what percent of their income was charged due to a marriage tax. Okay, so maybe you will find that fun and interesting. And I found this enlightening. I did this, and I didn't know what to expect. And so I don't expect that you know what to expect. So have fun doing it. And then finally, let's consider a common scenario. Suppose we have one spouse who's working and that person's earning 100,000 gross, and from your work above you already know how much the couple is responsible for in taxes. So it's not a person, it's a couple, so you refer back to your old work and then just copy the number. Net income after tax for this couple, you just take 100,000 and subtract the tax. So you see how much net income they have after tax. And the other spouse, you can read about this, goes out and gets a job, and you figure out the equivalent yearly income for the second working spouse, and you put it here. That's the gross, okay? But we do want to consider the fact that this spouse cannot work without traveling to work, and so I have this little scenario to estimate travel expenses for that second spouse. Now, we recalculate the couple's tax, because now you're going to add 100,000 to this value, whatever that is, and then so the two spouses together are making more money. Alright. Next, I'm going to be a little bit unconventional. I'm not only going to subtract all their tax from their income, but I'm also going to subtract the travel costs, because what's the point if you have to pay for travel in order to get to work, then that's part of the cost of working, so you're not actually getting that additional benefit. Okay, so I'm only going to allow the couple's net income increase, that we're gonna claim this couple increase their income by having both spouses working, but minus the additional travel costs that had to be sacrificed. So you put the new income here, the new net income minus the travel costs for the second spouse. Okay, take that additional income that they've now earned due to the second person working and divide by the total number of hours that second person worked. So there's no spot on here to report this, but you have to figure this out yourself. It's this many hours per week times this many weeks per year, and that's how many hours that person worked to make that money. So you take that number and divide by the total hours worked, and then you put the effective hourly rate for the second working spouse right there. Okay? And hopefully this will be fun and enlightening. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know.